All right, it's been a pretty fun, eventful day, that's for sure, in the fantasy and Supercoach world. We have found out plenty of information around guys backing up. We obviously got Dylan Lucas, who's out as well, which means Kai Paul and any of his owners in the happy basket. That one is, that's for sure. Out in a week where there's a lot of outs, it's good to see that work out on your side on that one. It doesn't help me. I've sold him already, but I do own him in Supercoach. It'll actually potentially change a few of my trades in Supercoach, which we'll get to in a second. But for right now in my team, I'm unsure on the trades or trade that I will be making. I am waiting until I do get the information from the Storm update, 7:30 or 7:35, whatever it is, in that one there, to just get a cleaner idea as to if Harry Grant was to be playing. He's obviously named to start. I imagine he'll probably come off the bench. But as long as he's playing, then I'm sweet, because Fuller's going to come into that one jersey. And at the moment, I do have 17 on the park. With Cotter being out, it's a little bit annoying, but obviously you still would be able to field a 17 this week, which is sweet. I've toyed with the idea of selling him, and I'll explain that in a second as to why. But really, for me, I got Garrick, Fafita, Cotter all playing next week. I currently have 5 out for next week. So I need to think about not just this week here, but the following weeks to come. And I would have to get 17 on the park, I'd have to sell one of Jeremy Marshall-King, Plath, Aitken, and obviously Fuller there, or Campbell, right? They're the 5. And all of the other, all of the Dolphins play this week. Campbell doesn't. So he's actually someone that I think I probably am going to have to sell this week. And the reason I would do it for this week is if I do make that one trade, I can get a guy that I could loop with Brayley, right? And I also need to try and get some funds in the account ready for Nico Hynes next week, right? So without too many sort of cheap guys that are easy targets, it's hard to get up to Nico. And obviously he's priced at 932. Hopefully after tonight, if I wasn't to get him, which is unlikely at this stage, that he's under 900 and he's closer to like 860, 870, 875 or something like that, would be the goal. And that would mean he'd have to score like a 60 this week or something like that to get a really big price drop like that with 113 break even. So Campbell, I think, has to go. That's my decision in the end. And I've got a couple of options, and Willison's one of them. The reason I do that, Campbell down to Willison leaves me with about 250 or just under 250k, 240 odd in the bank. And that gives me a little bit more wiggle room as if I wanted to trade out like a week, some Max King, maybe even a Cotter, that kind of player, depending on how much cash I have available next week. So King might be the man to go, for example, if I went down to Willison, and that leaves me some cash in the bank, right? I did toy with the idea of Cotter and Campbell to Hynes this week and Willison. So I could get Nico this week. Obviously would mean I don't have to worry about trading him in next week and making that happen. But it also means I'd be losing Cotter for next week. The thing with Campbell, guys, all going well, I'll bring him back in 19. So it's more just to get cover that 17 good players this week, get 17 on the park next week. And then if all goes well and he's back in the starting side at 6 and he's not missing that week, which, he's expected to be back in round 19, but I'm not exactly 100% sure. If all is going well, I'll just bring Campbell back in, because trading him out would mean I need another wing fullback for the following week. So yeah, that's something to note with Campbell. And it's a bit of more of like a musical chairs type of play, like move him around a little bit, move the pieces around just to get that full 17, get the good scores on a week-to-week basis. I would be holding, obviously, if he was to be playing next week, but he's not, right? So he's going to be out. So that leaves me short next week. And then if I trade him this week, it gives me an additional player to loop with, or if there's any laid outs or something like that, then that's sorted as well. So I've contemplated just a single trade, Campbell for Willison. I've contemplated Cotter and Campbell for Hynes and Willison. Pains me to say, but there's a little bit of chatter around that Madison will start at 13. And if that's the case, I'm expecting anything over 50 minutes for him. And he's probably a buy. He's priced under 40 there. It means he's a buy, right? And the mid-edge duel is really, really helpful as well. So we do have to think about, for feeder owners anyway, that he might not be there in round 19 for us. And I only have Pikura to be that round 19 edge. So if I was to bring in a Madison or a Willison, that covers me for mids, obviously, but the edge as well. So it gives me that flexibility that in round 19, I could either play them or Fainu in the mid or the edge, and then could make a decision if I want to pick another mid or I want to pick up another edge coming into round 19. Obviously, with guys like Nikora around and available, but we don't know if Fafita is actually going to be picked at this point, so it's likely for me that I'll wait until round 19 to make that decision rather than go early on someone like Nikora or whatever that's going to be. I want them to be a little bit more flexible because I do need a mid at the moment as well. So yeah, missing one for round 19, missing a half for round 19 as well. So they're the two down at the moment. If I was to trade Campbell, that would make it 3 down, but it would mean I'd be bringing in a mid, whoever that was there. So it would still be 2 down, and then Hynes back next week would make it 1 down, and then I would bring back that last wing fullback in round 19. So in that case, if it was one trade this week, hopefully I could get to Hynes in one trade in round 18. So that would leave me with 4 left, and then I would use one more trade to get that wing fullback on the park to make it 3 trades left coming into round 20. That's the goal. I expect that I'll probably have to use one more trade to leave me with 2 and just for an injury or something like that. The question I probably need to ask myself now is, I do want Cotter for next week. I think he's going to score really well. And I suppose, which combination I want to go for. It's actually been a pretty hard week. Like, obviously, round 13 and 16 were nice. I didn't have to make any trades. That definitely helps as well. I'm a little bit short of just going Cotter to Eli Katoa. I'm 1K short, and Tedesco I'm 3K short. I could go Cotter straight to like Stefano, McInnes, these types of guys, but not sure. Because that goal is getting, obviously I need one more half, and Hynes is just an obvious pick given he's the best scorer in the game right now, just under a 67 average with a 30-minute game in that rolling average. My goal needs to be a little bit more longer term in terms of not just this week only, and I need to look at next week in making it easy for me to get up to him as well. So that's where spending a little bit less and going for someone like Willison, who will get good minutes this week, thinking around the 40, 45 mark, hopefully. I'd be happy with that in round 17 here, in round 19, potentially in around 20 as well. They obviously do have a bye later on, but that's not a problem. I don't have to worry about him missing round 19 or 20 or next week, for example. So he would create some cash available to be able to do that, which would be really cool. So that's my general thought at the moment, is probably just to do the one trade, especially with the Hynes game tonight. The other issue, obviously, is that Broncos play the second game, and then the Eels play after that. So I actually won't know if Maddo is to be starting at 13 until after that. I could double up. I could go Campbell down to Willison first tomorrow, and then I could end up going Brayley, who I'm fairly well done with, to Madison or something like that, if that ended up being the play. He's obviously a little bit more expensive than Brayley, so that hurts the Nicho Hynes fund for sure. And that's where I'd be looking at, I need weeks to score pretty highly to give me enough cash to do that. I'd probably need to, it might be like a sell Max King or something like that at the price that's available there, or go early on Cotter to get to Hynes, where in that case, it's probably almost worth going this week if it's going to be a little bit difficult to get to Hynes in the following week. So there's lots to think about in the side. Harry Grant as well could be the one to go. So there's a lot to think about for sure. I'm still not sure as of yet, and I think I'm likely just to leave Hynes for tonight, let him lose a little bit of cash, hopefully, and then pick him up next week. So lots of things to think about for myself. There'll be a lot of things to think about in your teams as well. I'm going to captain Jerome Hughes. If you're looking at my side, it's Hughes up top. I think Aiken is probably second best. I've got Karaz with the vice just because he plays tonight. I think Hughes is pretty good to go for this game. Plath could be okay as well. If you've got Tedesco, I think he's a pretty solid captaincy. We haven't heard anything on Isaiah Yeo yet. Hynes, obviously the best captaincy, you'd say. Guys like Watson, you'd expect to do pretty well. Tarpanay, a solid one to pick as captain. I think AFB will bounce back. Eli Katoa should be fine as captain as well. And that's probably it, I'd say, on captaincy front. Dan Gagai should be sweet, but that's a fun one. Terrell May, not sure exactly how many minutes he'll get. Different to that of the exact major buy rounds when all of their players are out. So, I think we'll leave it at that for my team. I've got plenty to think about still, and I hope that helps you guys. And and just framing what you need to do over the next few weeks, because Brayley's someone I don't really need. So maybe for me it is, going for Willison, and then maybe Brayley goes down to another cheaper guy that pops up, and then I can use the funds of a Weeks or a Wishart or something like that to go to Cleary next week. That could be the potential play. I'd obviously like to do it in one trade, but yeah, Brayley's the one that I don't really need or want longer term, so he would be on that list of potential trade outs as well. And if we do hear the Grant is definitely playing, then Brayley's a little bit more expendable as that second trade if I'm going Campbell, or I just hold Brayley for this week, take a little bit of a loss on his funds, but loop him and Willison on that front, or potentially Pikura, whichever one I'm a little bit more worried about, that's for sure. It probably is Pikura at this point. So yeah, we'll leave it at that for the fantasy side. Let's go to my Supercoach team, which had made one trade, and in an interesting spot there with Curran or Willison. I suppose that's the pick I have to decide on tonight. Curran had a shocker last week and hopefully can bounce back, but Willison should be able to get bigger minutes and is in some decent form as well. But we also don't know that the exact minutes he's going to get. Kaipi's Paul, we now know that he's going to be starting, which is great. So I'll play him now. And what I did do is actually trade in Ronnie for Smithies, and then moved Aitken up just so I didn't have to play Kaipi's Paul in that scenario there. But I think now I'll probably just hold off on Ronaldo for one more week. Obviously against the Dogs this week. I think I'll trade him in next week, or at least in round 19 when things get a little bit more crazy. So in that case, if I was to undo the changes for that one, it actually sits me back at 18 trades. And 18 trades for 10 rounds is going to be fun. And I do think that's going to allow me to make a couple next week, make 3 in round 19 and really target and dominate that round, because I don't really think that Ronnie, he shouldn't go absolutely bonkers tonight. He did go really well in round 2, I think, against the Dogs, but the Dogs have really improved from here. And I'm expecting a bounce back from them for sure after a bit of a tough one. And if Stephen Crichton is to be playing as well, I really expect that to be a massive boost for him. And yeah, he might not be able to go absolutely nuts on that left-hand side. So in that case, I would, when I've got Ethan Strange there that I can easily play in that one there, in that starting side, I could just pop Strange in there. I think that's probably where I'm gonna go with it. Because otherwise, I'd play Kaipi's Paul and I'd bench Strange. It is against Melbourne, but he's up against that right-hand side defensively, which isn't too crash hot. So not the worst shout in the world to actually just play Strange and save the trades and really just dominate in that back end of things. So yeah, I think that's probably where I'm going to go in my side, is actually reverse that and just play Strange, play Kaipi's Paul. Yeah, I think that's where, and then just I've got to make the decision on Curran or Willison. What would you guys do, Curran or Willison, in this side? And let's go to the head-to-head fantasy team and the Supercoach team now. So I've actually made no trades in the fantasy head-to-head side, and that is with Cotter now being out. So I'm just going to switch in with Brendan Hands. I do have 17 available. So Cotter, Garrick, Campbell, and Fafita are the ones that are out. They're going to stick in this side. I'm going to vice captain Britton Nicola tonight. Obviously, over the next few weeks, we are looking to try and get Nico Hynes in, but I just don't feel like it's necessary to make that trade this exact week when I have 17 available. And then I think next week I could really push for Nico. Given I've only got 7k in the bank, it's going to be hard to get him in this team. And the other thing there is that I've got Galvin and Dylan Brown, so that would mean that one of those guys misses out for round 19 as well. But for a head-to-head side as well, I've got half or something like that of my head-to-head matchups that are really important for that week. I have Brendan Hands that can play hooker for that week, which is good, but it's just that half position that's a little bit annoying as well. So it's not like a clear must-have. One of these guys might get injured over the next few weeks as well, so touch wood, hopefully they don't, but they could, and that could mean an easy switch to Hynesy in that scenario. Teddy, I'm going to lock him in as captain. It's going to be a bit of a fun one for the head-to-head side, and hopefully he can go well for a big winner here. We need a couple of wins in a few of the head-to-head comps. But yeah, a good idea here to hold trades for this week. And if things go poorly and I start I lose a lot of my matchups this week, then I might have to go a little bit more on the all-in phase, especially in a few of the leagues where I'm closer to the the end of the 8. But there's a bunch of them I'm near the top 4 or in the top 4. So yeah, we're not too bad overall on the head-to-head side. And then go to Supercoach. And I had made 2 trades. I was trying to, as I said, similar to what I was just saying there about going all in. I was going to do that this week, but with Kaipi's Pool now available, I have reversed that second trade. So I was going to go for Cartwright, actually. So I was going to go Kaipi's Pool to Cartwright and then Meany to Manu. But I'm actually just going to stick with just the one trade now, Meany to Manu. I think that's obviously a big upgrade in general. And with Val being out there, I've got Young, Manu, Osako, Aro. And then I think I'm going to play Blaze Talangi there on the wing against Newcastle. Yeah, it's obviously against Marzu, but I think, defensively, he should be able to do well in attack there for sure. A little bit of a tough one. Some of the bench guys not in a great position. And Fahu wide, obviously Smithy's got Porter there. Johnson's injured and out now and very cheap. I've got Holmes injured, rested for this week. But the rest of the side looking pretty strong. Obviously, Husey there can cover that one. Got Brown, Talangi, Drinkwater, and Reed Barney as my bench guys. Adam Fanua-Blake and Terrell May, both in good positions there. I think Adam Fanua-Blake can easily stay as my vice captain. Obviously, in the Supercoach, I haven't spoken about getting Hynes yet. He's definitely on the list here in the head-to-head squad, but the cash available to do that. So I do think I have to wait till next week and then make that happen somehow with an upgrade downgrade with like a cash out will be kind of the only play here. I do want to get the win this week, so that's where Manu comes in on that front. There's no real like clear cheapies to grab. Obviously I could muck around with like Molotalo or something like that, but I could also do that next week potentially as well. In a certain scenarios for sure. I could SJ could go, Strange could come up to 5'8", and we could drop down to a cheapie, or we just, whenever the next injury comes, they can drop down to a cheapie. So there's a few things to do. Obviously, it's going to be harder to get Nico next week, but it might even be the week after that we have to do that as well in the head-to-head side. But hopefully a big win this week for the squad with a bunch of those Roosters, captaining Tedesco in both Supercoach squads there. So, yeah, wish you all the best of luck, guys, for your trades this week. It's obviously 6:34 p.m. We'll get that final team in the next half an hour, and we'll do some fun things from there. So good luck and enjoy tonight. I'll be watching from behind the couch with Nicola, with likely Ronnie if I reverse that trade, and then Hynesy as well. We'll be cheering on Karaz, and yeah, that's about it. So sweet guys, have a good one. See you later.